I'm author Richard R. Becker, and I'm introducing a new interview series with bookstore owners called Off the Shelf. And my very first guest is going to be Annie with Thistle and Nightshade up in Reno, Nevada. So, hey, Annie, thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I'm excited to do this.
So I was just up there in Reno with a book signing, and one of the things that kind of stuck with me was your bookstore history. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that? How did you become a bookstore owner?
I am the co-owner of Thistle Nightshade with my good friend Alex. We met each other in church circles, and that's just how we became friends. And then kind of like through the pandemic, both of us just were really stressed out because the pandemic was really stressful. And we kind of just started this like running, like
Uh,
not a gag, but just like kind of a running thing where we just talked about like, oh my gosh, just when we open a bookstore, like everything will be better. And it was really a joke. And then like we kind of loosely talked about like, oh, could we do this? And we're like, not really. And then about, I don't know, February, yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, February of 23, we just kind of went, well, what if we like made this like real? And so then we decided it, and that's kind of been the adventure ever since. We were purely online for about a year, and then we opened to the public off of 7th Street, and then
You were like
quick,
in a cellar, right?
oh yes,
Yeah,
like you had to like
your
we were
first
like
location.
yeah, we were like underneath a set of stairs. Like you had to go down a set of stairs that
Uh,
was underneath a set of stairs, and you like turned. People thought it was like people's houses, so they were like hesitant to come, and it was really hard to find us. And so when we outgrew that space, basically by we were looking by mid-March,
right.
but by the end of May, we went, oh, we have to move. Like we either have to move or we have to shut down because this doesn't work. Like we were like cute, but like we couldn't sustain business.
Yeah.
And so we found the location we're currently in. So we just went from a small office building to like a bigger office building. So I don't know, we apparently like being in office buildings. It's a thing. So we opened here in uh August. We meant to open up earlier in the summer, but there was several mishaps. Well, first was not processing just how exhausting our lives were. So I taught summer school, and I didn't think it would be as exhausting as it was because it was just 3 days a week, half days, no problem. No, it was so exhausting. And so like that made it really hard. And then Alex had things in their lives, and then we're like, okay, we'll open up like early July. Well, then they went out of town to celebrate their parents like are they on their 50th? No, 40th? Something big
Yeah.
anniversary. So they ran out of town, and then right before they went out of town, they injured themselves at their job, at their full-time job. And then I went out of town. I went to go see Taylor Swift in Germany, which was so much fun.
Wow.
Then at the Taylor Swift concert, I sprained my ankle really badly, like
Uh,
before the concert even started. So I'm coming back from like international travel with a sprained ankle, and then like within a week, I started like teaching, like getting ready, like the week before the kids come back. Like I
right,
started
right.
teaching again. So we were just kind of like, I looked at them and I went, Alex, like we either have to do it August 3rd or we're not opening up until Labor Day. And so we just kind of launched on August 3rd. Because I was mostly healed by then and we could like put stuff together, but it was just super chaotic. But that's how we're here. That's how we're
Right.
here today.
Yeah. And then you teach. I mean, you teach full time as well, right? So
Yes.
yeah.
So both of us have full-time jobs. So I teach special education full-time, and Alex works in a warehouse that does not laser engraving, but like cutting out like weirdly shaped parts.
Oh,
Alex has explained it to me so many times, and I'm like, I don't
it's
know.
like a tool and die company.
Yes, they're
Oh,
called send cut send. So it's like you send them the thing, and then they like cut out what you
duplicate it.
need, and
Yeah.
then they send it back out. So
I had an
um,
uncle that actually did something like that. So I
yeah,
get it.
yeah. So we work full time, and that's kind of why we have weird. hours, but like this is our hope and our passion. I don't know that I'd ever stop teaching because I love teaching so much, but
Yeah.
like the hope and the passion is that this becomes the full-time gig. But we'll see. We're making strides towards that.
No, I like it. Okay. And it is a little bit tricky to find your store. So can you explain that a little bit?
Yes. So if you're in the Reno area, I'm gonna explain it like somebody who grew up in Sparks. And so basically it's like if you're coming on the McCarran Loop going like functionally north, right? You're in Northwest Reno, like, go like you're going to the like McQueen or the library. So there's the Walmart that's off of Mae Anne. So behind that is a another street called like Sierra something or other, Sierra Highlands, I think.
Yeah.
And then in that shopping center, it's like a Pizza Plus, a Bully's, the Sushi Rose, a Chinese restaurant, a vape shop, a couple of different nail places. So it's like a strip mall kind of thing. Above that is a set of offices. So building B houses the chiropractor's office. So apparently a bunch of people know about that chiropractor.
Yeah.
So yay, go team. And then we're on the side that has the dentist at the end, but we're on the opposite side of the dentist. So the easiest way to get to us is just get to Mae Anne and McCarran, and however you get to Mae Anne and McCarran, get to Mae Anne and McCarran, go up past the Walmart light, past Sierra Highlands. Then there's like a little turn in that would take you down towards the Pizza Plus and the Bullies. Skip that one, go to the next one, turn right, and then just go all the way down almost to the chiropractor's office.
As long as my directions are right. You kind of want the west parking lot, not the east parking lot. That be? Because I think
Yes.
that's the
Yes.
orientation, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so you
Sorry,
want
I'm
the second
location
parking lot.
bound.
No, no,
Yes.
I was trying to
No,
think of
you're
like
right.
how did we get there, and because we originally pulled in on the lower part, and
Oh
then
yeah.
yeah, and then so I actually got out and like walked around, and I saw like a little sign, and I said, oh, I think it's up there. So that's when we went up. But I always
Yeah.
get to bookstores early because you never know what to expect.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Because Google leads you astray. Google tries to, it just says in 100 feet, turn right.
yeah.
And so it fakes you out and thinking that you need to go down. And no, you go up just one more. Just one more. We're in the offices.
So how
We're
did you come up with Thistle and Nightshade name?
so that was my creation, and it really was. I I don't know. Initially, I think I started with the nightshade piece of it because I've always been fascinated by the concept of nightshade.
Yeah,
Just like, it's like this deadly plant and you have to look out for it. I read a lot of like Dear Americas and like a lot of books that use like hemlock and nightshade, like a lot of like femme fatales that like poisoned their husbands that way.
yeah.
So I've just always been interested in nightshade. And then I like was kind of thinking, I was like, oh, well, what looks pretty with a nightshade? And I was like, oh, a thistle, like a thistle's really nice. And I was like, well, that kind of fits my personality. I'm kind of prickly, like, I'm just
I
like, I'm
didn't think so, but okay.
uh, yes, one person has been fooled, yay. But I can be a little prickly, and I do kind of have this like macabre sense of humor and just like I'm a little bit dark. But then I found out like what's also a part of the like nightshade family specifically is tomatoes and eggplants. And I think that's the funniest thing in the world.
Yeah,
Like thing that can like kill you. Like nightshade kills you. And it's like a tomato you can eat like an apple. Like if it's
right.
grown fresh, like you can just eat it like an apple. I just like I loved that. And I also loved the idea like thistles also included like, like the pretty thistle, but also like an asparagus.
Oh,
Like, and so like the ridiculousness of that, and that's really what like kind of Alex brings to it is they're not dark and moody like me. They're not super prickly. They're actually like just really like buoyant. I mean, they're an introvert, but like they love to laugh. They love to be a good time. And the more I kind of like thought of the name, I was like, this really is like a good marriage of like our personalities
yeah,
and also like just it's serious and it's prickly, but it's also just funny. It's just funny. And I don't know, I just loved the idea that we could open a store that felt like that too, that has like the dark and like the serious things, but also just has like ridiculous books
oh,
because books are ridiculous sometimes, and that's good because joy is ridiculousness and that's fun.
yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, that's great. I look forward to meeting them, by the way, when
Yes.
I'm up there, you know?
Yes. They have and in theory, they're gonna have a new schedule soon.
Okay.
And so they should be able to be on weekends. So
Oh,
yay, I'll get my weekends back
okay.
because working 7 days a week has been a little stressful.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. Yeah, so no days off for you. No.
No, but that's okay. There's been a couple of times whether it's been friends have come in and like come in and covered, or we've closed early and adjusted hours, or like this last Sunday, I was just like, I need a break. So I
So,
just took it off and it was great.
so I know that you and Alex kind of work together picking like what books are going to be in the store.
Hmm.
And but you also have both different, very different genres that you like. So kind of give me a breakdown of like how do you go about that? Like what can we expect from what are you each lending to the store?
Yes. So I think at the end of the day, like sorry, my brain just stopped. There we
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
It's back. It's
You've been
back.
teaching all day.
I have been teaching all day. It's the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. We just fought to the bitter end. We're
I
like, we're
know.
just gonna do this, guys. We got this. So I am really passionate about like good children's literature
Yeah,
because like if you don't start off with a good level of reading, then it makes it really difficult to like pick up reading later. Not impossible, but just difficult. And so the children's and YA is like kind of like where not I shine the most, but like I know the most about it because that's like what I pick. Alex has contributed some really amazing stuff in there too, but that's not really like their thing. They have a huge passion for diverse. We both have a huge passion for diverse voices. But I really appreciate how much they like stretch me because it's like um they're the really really good at queer voices and like reminding me we have like no intersex or asexual books, so like we need to focus on that.
yeah,
But then I balance out of saying like, oh my goodness, we looked around in about mid-August and I went, we have like next to no Latinx books. And so we
yeah,
like really like worked hard. And that became like my passion project.
yeah.
And so Alex is going to be the one that gets you your indie books. So if you want to know about indie books, you go to them and then they tell me, and then I will regurgitate to you, but I'm not great in the indie sphere. If you want YA and kids, that's me.
Yeah.
Horror, I'm growing as a person and I'm learning more about horror. It's been, excuse the pun, horrifying to learn about horror because I'm not very good at it, but I've been growing. Alex is where you want to go for your modern fantasy. If you want outdated fantasy, I can typically help you with that in sci-fi. But if you want more modern, like the freshest fantasy, go to Alex. If you want social justice issues, go to Alex for nonfiction. But if you want history or memoirs, that's really more my space.
Right.
Yeah, but we try really hard also to rely on other voices that we know. So we're constantly asking people that we know are readers, what are you reading? And we also really love when people from Reno tell us, oh, we want to see these kinds of books. And we're like, okay. Um, because how else we want this store to always feel like it's a Reno store because there is a flavor to Reno that's unique and beautiful and something we both really enjoy. So we don't want people to walk in and be like, oh, well, this is stuff I'd find in LA or New York or Portland. I wanted to come in and be like, no, this is like stuff I'd find in Reno. And
Yeah.
like this feels like local. And that's, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I got a vibe that you were like sort of trying to create a community there of people, and some of the people who came in were like really wonderful, and it felt more at home than anything else, you know.
Yeah.
I know you have like the three distinct rooms.
Hmm.
So how to give like, can you walk people through the layout a little
Yeah.
bit?
Yeah, so when you walk in, probably the first thing you'll see is our display. Typically, our roundtable display is like whatever is being celebrated that month. So right now is Indigenous Peoples Heritage Month, and so that's our display. You're also going to find up there, that's where we have our gifts and our stickers. We try really hard to have a really good sticker collection, and so that's what you're going to find there. You're also going to find stuff by local artisans. So you're going to find cards and more stickers by local artisans, jewelry. What is that? Parkour, not parkour. Paracord. There we go. My brain just
There you go.
yeah, parkour, paracord, same thing. And so that's what you'll find kind of on displays. You also find our blind dates with a book. Alex does a really amazing job of curating that. I have nothing to do with it. So it's great because then people will ask me about it and I'm like, genuinely, I don't know. Like the information you
Yeah.
have there is what I know about it. That's also where our nonfiction is. And then your first door on the left is our rainbow room. And Alex freehanded that, like kind of just like put a general blue tape up for the first couple and then painted a rainbow and it's beautiful.
Wow.
And so it's just really awesome. And that's our kids in YA.
Sure.
So yeah, and so it's just a lot of fun. We have it separated by age in there, and then what we call our green room because the walls are green. And then I have covers on because I can't stand fluorescent lights, so it's a teacher hack. So there's covers on all of our lights, including in here. So in here and in the kids' room is lavender. Out in the front is galaxies, and then in the green room are forests.
Right.
And yeah, so yeah, it makes it nice. And in green room is all of our fiction. So it starts with four shelves of romance, kind of broken by subgenre, then our general fiction and classics, and then mystery and thriller. Um, and then which is where you'd find Third Wheel. And then you'd find 50 states in the anthology section in our nonfiction. So just saying. And
I
then we
appreciate that,
have
by the way.
four. Yeah, no problem.
I'll take a call out.
It's right there because I was like going in my head. I was like, oh wait, Third Wheel's right there. I just put another one away. And then horror, and then fantasy, and then sci-fi. Our hope one day, um, down the road when we have a slightly bigger place is that we'd have um lots of romance, fantasy, and sci-fi because that's kind of the thing we mutually enjoy
Yeah.
and would want to see like lots of it. And they are honestly our best sellers. Those are the things we go through quick. And so if you ever come in and you're just like, they don't have a lot, it's because people keep buying it. We can't always like keep up with it because it's like what
Well,
was
as soon as
it?
they buy it, you have to order another one, right?
I
Because
know, and but we try really, really hard, and Alex is so much better at this than I am. We try so hard to not just necessarily reorder something. We have core inventory or things where like, no, we want to hold this. One of our favorites is Never Whistle at Night, which is an anthology of indigenous like horror and folklore stories.
yeah,
It's so good, like so, so good. And we always want to have a copy of that, but it'll go on our shelf and we've never had it last more than 2 weeks.
well,
And it keeps getting back ordered. And I'm like, I'm trying to keep up with it. So we're trying really hard to make sure that every time we order, um, even if you pick it up, there's a decent chance that we might not reorder it. We're always happy to order stuff for you if you're like, oh man, I really wanted that last time I came in and I didn't snag it. We're happy to reorder it for you, but we try. Alex again is way better than I am because I'm like loyal and like,
oh,
no, this sold once, let's sell it again. But for the most part, we actually don't necessarily replenish the exact same book. We'll
okay,
probably get something similar, but we try really hard to make it feel fresh. And it's not necessarily that it's like, oh, all new releases, everything in the stores from 2024. It's like, no, it's just like maybe you know, you bought something, that was like a horror book that was kind of like the devil's the main, the main character. We might not reorder that one, but we'll order one really similar to it that's, come out in the last 5 years.
okay,
So we try to make it diverse because also sometimes we don't know a lot about the stories.
sure.
And so we want to try to bring out new stories from new people that come in.
So
So
kind of
we
like
try really hard.
if I
Yeah.
come in and I look around, I might be surprised, right? And
Yeah.
then, but at the same time, if I was looking for something specific, of course, you guys would take care of it for me.
Oh yeah.
All right.
No, we're happy to order it
Yeah.
for you. And then also you can at any time use bookshop.org, which is great for any indie bookstore because even if you don't affiliate with us,
Mm,
it goes into a big pot. And like that is how we made our first deposit was just like our portion that we got in that first pot because we get it twice a year. So we get it
okay.
in June and December. And it's just I really love bookshop.org because they're trying so hard to compete with Amazon. Um, and it honestly feels like ordering books on off of Amazon like 15 years ago before Prime, might
Yeah,
maybe be longer, where it's like you still have to pay for shipping, but it's like
they're
you're
making those baby steps, right?
yeah, you're taking those baby steps and it's I don't know, it feels good. So the benefit of like going through
They're
us
looking
is
at
that
starting an audio book,
yes.
their
Yes.
own
So
audiobook production or process as well. So that's
yes.
it could be a good time for people to check that out, you know?
Yeah. And so right now they are affiliated with Libro, which has a similar MO. So I know Bookshop is a nonprofit.
Uh-huh.
I don't think Libro is, but Libro is the same thing. So they're technically a smidge more expensive than Audible, but Amazon intentionally does that
Mm.
because like Audible used to be 14.99 a month for a credit, and now they're like trying to be like, oh, 7.99. And you're like, just stop. Like, just stop. And so Audible's like with tax here in Reno is like 16.23 a credit. Um, but I was like, you support us and you're again kind of competing with that Amazon. Amazon exists, it's going to keep existing, but it doesn't need to have the stranglehold that it has on books in particular and media in particular. We
Sure.
can do things to combat that. And I just like being a part of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so as an indie bookstore too, I know you're sympathetic to the indies. You want indie authors to,
Mhm.
reach out sometimes and stuff like that. So how do you balance that between like traditionally published books and indie books? Or
Yeah.
do you have a particular vision for indie authors?
Yeah. I think in general we try, and again, Alex is much better at this than I am,
Yeah.
because they're kind of like have their finger on the pulse of it. Really wants to highlight indie books just because indie books is where we find like diversity of authorship, diversity of stories, and diversity of just of thought. Like sometimes a book wouldn't be picked up by traditional publishing, but is so, so good. And
Mhm.
it's just a different way of viewing the world. And so we highlight that. And then really at the end of the day, we both find it really important to highlight local authors. So we consider, anybody from Nevada to be a local author. And we love highlighting that because it's such a vulnerable thing to say, here's something that I believed in enough that
Mhm.
I wrote it and that I got it published, whether it was through a publishing house or sometimes self-publishing it. And so we are always upfront and honest, and we just say we just need to be able to preview the book because we like to make sure our values align
Oh,
with
yeah.
what's in the books. Because sometimes, people write things and you're just like, this isn't the right fit for our space.
Yeah.
And also like, is it decently written? Like, and thus far, those things have been true. People have had things that line up with their vision, and at minimum, it's decently written, or it's for the most part, we've found people are like good writers, and
Okay.
you're just
Yeah.
like, this is good, like this is positive. And
So that's kind of
so
what you're looking for is like a quality writer,
yeah,
ideally Nevada, but you're open to other ideas, right?
yeah,
And some of the books you've already talked about, like in terms of like the fantasy, the horror, science fiction,
yeah,
or romance, right?
yeah,
Might be some of the books that you would at least take a preview because we don't want to
yeah,
inundate you too, right? We don't want
yes,
10,000 indie authors calling you.
yes. Yes, and we do have a process, and we have a form to fill out,
Yeah.
and we're really honest on that form. We're honest on the feedback about how this all works. Some of it was like trial and error, where, like somebody comes in and then we went, oh, and it doesn't, we very rarely can work together, like
Yeah.
we're not on like the same shifts. So we had to kind of come up with a streamlined process, so we're really honest about it, and we're happy to communicate with people. But we will always prioritize Nevadans first. But if it's an expat to make a joke, right? If you are from Nevada, but now you live in New York, we'll prioritize over
Yeah.
like, somebody that just lives in New York. But
Yeah. That's,
we
yeah.
want there's something powerful about going into any bookstore and seeing your book, and to know that somebody thought highly enough of it that like you know we wanted it on our shelves. And so we love it. And like any other process, you know we'll see what sells and what doesn't sell, but we have little bookmarks that say I'm local. And so we put that like not in every single book because sometimes people have like 10 books and
Yeah.
we want people to see it. We, pull it out and highlight what we can, and we try anytime that we have a display, if there's something like that if that person fits into that space, we'll pull it out and we'll highlight it. So
That's
we
awesome.
want people to read it, and for the most part, people have been really receptive to that.
Mm.
Some people intentionally come to our store and look for local authors, look for indie authors, and other people have been pleasantly surprised. They're like, "Oh, I didn't realize this was local. That's great."
Yeah.
And so yeah, so we try to strike that balance. So we have the forms. So if you are interested, just send us an email, and we can get you those forms and start the process for you. And it's the same with local artisans. I mean, your stuff has to be small enough to fit into the space, but same thing. We have a process because we just want people to feel to be highlighted and celebrated. And nothing makes me happier than somebody picking up a book or jewelry or a card that somebody has put their love and energy into, pick it up and go, "Oh my gosh, this is the cutest," or "This looks like so much fun," or "Man, I can't wait to read this." Because it just shows me how much art matters and that your art matters. And it's just powerful and I love
Uh,
it.
And I know for you, like you're really passionate about the books you like and about the things you like. And
Mhm.
I mean, it comes across like, and your memory is like sharp as a tack. Because we talked about a lot of different books, and you're like, oh, well, this one, and this one, I think about this one. So one of the ones, of course, I wanted to touch on, which is one of your favorites, right? Is I wanted to talk about, it's Alana, right? The First Adventure by Tamara Pierce. Is that correct?
Tamara Pierce, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me about that book and how that's the book that you sort of fell in love with reading.
Yeah. So yes, I taught myself to read, but I did not enjoy reading at all. And so technically like Harry Potter was like the thing that made me go, okay, maybe like reading is fine. Because like my mom read it to me, but it's like wrapped up in a lot of nostalgia for me because I just think it's just, it's just wrapped in a lot of nostalgia. And it's just really beautiful. But then in fourth grade, my librarian, they had just done a reprint because Tamara Pierce wrote these books in like the 80s. And so I'm old, but I'm not, 1983 old quite yet. And so they'd done a reprint of it, and it was, I call it Alana. Her name is Alana. I will just say Alana. It is Alana. I just say Alana because I didn't know how to say it. It doesn't have the H, so that's why I get away with it. Anyway, so Alana, the First Adventure. And I mean, it's not a particularly long book, but I also was only in fourth grade.
Oh, sure.
And it's written at the time what was considered fourth grade level. It's now considered middle school level because reading abilities have changed in the 20 years since then. But I just picked it up, and I mean, I read it, I don't know, within 48 hours. Like I just
You
zoomed
couldn't put
through
it
it.
down.
I could not put it down. And then I read In the Hand of the Goddess, which to this day is my favorite book of all time. I
Wow.
don't know what that says about my taste that like, a book from the 80s that's meant for children is still my favorite book of all time, but it is. And it was good storytelling, interesting, like how she like just built her world. So like it had a rich world,
Yeah.
that you could immerse yourself into. But all of the characters were like distinct. So like the best way
That's
I can
important.
explain this is like my friends and I, when we got into Harry Potter, we all self-inserted ourselves into the story because there was so much room for it, right? You could pick
Right.
what house you were in, you could decide these were your parents, you were the sibling of this person, right? You could immerse yourself in because Rowling had, I don't think intentionally, just a little bit laxer world building,
Yeah.
had built a world that like you could just sink yourself into and just really like, and nobody could like ever argue, well, that's not what would happen in that world because we didn't actually quite know. Versus Tamara Pierce, who a little bit more like Tolkien or even like Star Wars or Star Trek, you actually kind of can't just be a random character. You have to like fit into this mold because there were structures on it. And like you could insert yourself, but it like kind of like you had to break the canon, right? Like, and so she wrote something. And yes, like is her like functionally her like god and goddess system is functionally like the Greek system just renamed.
Yeah.
And so like as an adult, can I poke holes and be like, okay, yeah, but also like tell me what book. So sorry if this is a little much. It's okay, but
No,
I'm
it's
really
fine.
but it's like the fifth or sixth chapter of the first book is called Womanhood. And Alana, because like the premise is that she, cuts her hair short, she disguises herself as a boy to become a knight because she doesn't want to be magical. She hates her magic, so she doesn't want to become a page or become a mage. Like all of the like she doesn't want to become a proper woman. She just wants to be a knight. And so she is wakes up at like 11, 12, like 12, sorry, more like 12, 13-ish. She wakes up and, in our words, right, she has her period, but she doesn't know. Nobody's taught her. Her mother died, like giving birth to her, and it's like she just has her like manservant with her who knows she's a girl, but like she doesn't want to go to him. So she like flees the castle and like she makes really good friends with the king of thieves, George, and confesses her secret. And because he's like only like 5 or 6 years older than her,
Oh,
so
yeah.
he's a young man himself, and he takes her to his mother, who like teaches her about how to be a woman. And it's not explicit or gross, but just like there are very I cannot name another book that like just talks about the reality of what it means to be a girl, to be a woman. And especially in the late 90s, early 2000s when I was growing up, and there was so much of that, not this girl energy. Well, I'm not like other girls. I'm not the cheerleader. I'm not the thinnest thing. I'm not sporty. I'm not like other girls. I'm not whiny or too girly. Like all these things. And Alan embodied that, where it's like, especially in the second book, she starts like putting on wigs and like wearing dresses that she hasn't worn dresses since she was like a little girl,
Oh,
and exploring, am I feminine, am I masculine, like is it okay that I like fight with swords but like still want, this like love interest to kiss me, like the tenderness of like the fragility of like youth, of being a young woman, but also like she gets beat up, right? Because she's trying to become a knight, right? So
yeah.
she's learning horseback riding, she's learning sword fighting, and she's bow and arrows, and she has to, because she's a noble, so she has to know how to, because she's being like treated like a noble man. She
Right.
has to learn how to like do finances and like all these things that should have been barred to her. So it's such a feminist piece of work, but you never feel that way. So yeah, it's just so immersive and so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I genuinely think every young girl should read it. And even every young boy, because it's really good, and it's just full of characters that kick butt. And I don't know, by the time you get to Dane's story, there's like evil things like the Spydrin, which has the head of a human on the body of a giant spider, like literally like picture your head on the top of like a black widow. I hate spiders, but it's so good. And it's so worth the read. And they're quick reads because again, they're written at a fourth, fifth grade level. So they're not hard reads, but they're good reads.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
anyway, I'll stop myself. I'll
No,
stop.
that's good. So yeah, we're coming up like I guess I got like a 10-minute warning. So
Oh,
yeah,
goodness.
I know we're just zooming by, right? So
Yeah.
so I want to make sure we touch on a couple things. So one of the things we talked about, and I think you talking about that book is what kind of makes it great. We talked a little bit about just engaging youth and how to go about doing that. Like I had an idea where you sort of like introduce them to things that you find out what they like. I mean, that makes a
Yeah.
difference. And then you sort of help them match books to it because otherwise it's like it's too big of a selection, I think, for kids
Mhm.
to just
Yes.
say, because a lot of people say, oh, just let the kid pick their book. But there's so many books they don't really know. And sometimes the book you pick off the shelf because you like the cover isn't going to be the best book, and then you're not going to like reading, right?
Yeah.
So with a little guidance, I always felt like the two things that we could probably do um, is guide them toward their interests and find the absolute best book that they can find that they're going to love reading, and then
Yeah.
turn around and maybe introduce them to like introduce them to a classic or something like that,
Yeah.
to engage their brain a little bit more. Wait,
Yeah.
and what are some of your thoughts as a teacher?
Yeah, I think that something I've really loved about what a lot of my colleagues have started doing, and even in our libraries, we started doing the children's section, is we pull out books that are like based off of subject matter. So if
Mhm.
you know that this kid really loves dogs, there's literally like hundreds of books that are dogs, like just
Yeah.
whether it's a dog as a main character or it's about owning a dog. And so we put them in bins. And so then it's like, then there, and it's by a whole bunch of different authors. And
Right.
then it's like, if your kid likes dogs, like get them books about dogs. If they like horses, get them books about horses.
Yeah.
Um, if they are horror based, Goosebumps is making a comeback, and that makes me so happy.
Yeah.
So I think it's really at the end of the day, it's like a combo of we need parents to engage with reading as well. And if you're a parent that doesn't like reading, like this isn't like reading is not your thing, I understand, like I genuinely do understand that.
Mhm.
So I say the same thing to you. Come to a place like Thistle and Nightshade and just tell me you can just come up to me and be like, I like dogs. And I'll be like, bet. Okay. And we'll go find books about
Books
dogs
about
together
dogs.
because
That's
that
awesome.
still exists. Because at the end of the day, I found when parents aren't engaged about their reading,
Mhm.
then the kids have a hard time um, because they're just kind of like, well, why would I read? My parents don't read. And it's like, do you understand that every single show you like, video game you play, um, movie you enjoy has a literary thing. And my favorite thing to do is to point out things like Friends isn't as funny as you think it is without the literary references.
Yeah.
Like, Chandler just going, okay, Lenny, you have to understand that's from Mice and Men. And it's because Joey's like petting this
Good
mouse
point.
and he's like, right, like, he's going to break him. Or understanding in Remember the Titans that, Julius being called an Uncle Tom is like a huge slam because of Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom and like how that was interpreted.
Oh yeah.
Media is better when you understand the literary references. If you like Taylor Swift, there's a whole book where they're just
Just on
going to
that.
describe all the literary references, and I can't wait.
Hey, so in our last couple minutes, because we only have a couple, and I think they're going to cut
Yes.
us off, is how it's going to work. But this, like I
I don't
said,
know.
this is
We'll
like a
find
new
out.
thing.
We'll find
Yeah.
out.
So, what do you have something coming up that people should be aware of?
Yes.
Let's kind of wrap with that.
Yes. So on December 21st, the longest night of the year, we're going to celebrate the book flood. There's a Norwegian word for it. I don't know how to say it. And so come, and we're going to start at sundown, which is about 4:30 and go until about midnight. We're going to provide hot cocoa and it's just going to be fun,
Oh, that's
where
awesome.
we're just going to come and bring your own bedding and a pillow and just come and read. Come and read, and we'll have 10% off of all new books. So
Wow.
come buy a new book or bring an old one. I don't care. Just come hang out, read, drink some hot
That'd be a great
cocoa.
time to introduce, to like really get to know your store and see how comfortable it
Yes.
really is. And in
Yep.
the green room, you have that couch, right?
Oh
So,
yeah, and in the kids' room, I got the even bigger couch,
yeah.
and we'll probably throughout the night, at least once or twice, we'll gather the kiddos around. We have a couple of books that are about the solstice day, and so we'll read that to them a couple of times throughout the night. So it's just meant to be kind of a friendly, family fun night to come read books because why not? It's the longest night of the year. Let's be cozy and read
Let's
books.
do it. Yeah. So that's Thistle and Nightshade, everyone. And Annie, I want to thank you again for coming on.
Yes, this
And,
was
and
so much
being
fun.
like my very first bookstore owner.
Yes, I love
We'll
this.
see what
This
we
was
can do with this. I'll
great.
definitely have you back again for
Okay,
sure.
perfect. Thank you. Have a good
Thank you.
night.
Good night.